So we're going to talk about setting up Perforce with Unreal Engine today and using DigitalOcean as our cloud host for our files. So the first thing you need to do is you need to get the P4 Visual Client, P4V, from the Perforce website. So you can go to Google this, go ahead and just get it, download it, and make sure you're downloading it for your operating system. Go ahead and download that, install it, pretty straightforward. After you do that, it will look kind of like this. You want to be opening up the P4V client in Windows. P4V, it's just called that, uh, or in Mac too, Linux as well. But this is essentially the program that we're installing. This is the connector and the file manager that we'll be using. So, cool thing about Perforce is you can use it either on the cloud to push files for yourself, for your team. You can also use it locally on your own computer without having to pay for any sort of cloud storage. You're just creating a repository on your own hard drive that you can make changes, revert changes, those sorts of things. Obviously, if you're working with a team, you kind of need a server to host all those files, which is why I like to suggest to use DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is just one such website cloud host. You can use whatever you want, really doesn't matter. DigitalOcean's pretty cheap and ties in pretty well with Perforce, so that's why I suggest to use it. So on DigitalOcean, go ahead and make an account, sign up. I've already made an account, so I'm just going to log in. And after you've made an account, you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. My suggestion is on the left side to go to the marketplace. There's all sorts of apps that you can install here and stuff, but what we want to do is install the Perforce one. So just type in P4, Perforce Helix Core. That's what I want to install. When I say install, it means installing this into the cloud server through what DigitalOcean calls droplets, which you will have to pay for if you're getting any sort of cloud storage. So create Perforce Helix Core droplet. So you click that Create Perforce Helix Core droplet, and you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. This is where you choose where you want your server to be located and how much you want to pay for it based on your needs for your project. So I'm going to click New York because we're in New York. And since we already went to the marketplace, selected Perforce Helix Core, it's going to set that up for us. If you didn't go to the marketplace, you can always enter that here and it will do the same thing. We're not setting up anything else. And I'm just going to go with the cheapest option here. Regular, $12 a month. There are some, if you go on Reddit stuff, you can find some credits for DigitalOcean, like $200 for 2 months, 60 days of usage. Might be of interest to you. I could also send you a referral too. That will give you 200 free dollars to use for 2 months on DigitalOcean. But in the meantime, I'm just going to select the cheapest option, $12 a month. This gives us a shared server, but that's good enough for our purposes. 50 gigs storage space. You can always get more, you can always add more. Should be plenty for now. The next thing that we need to do is we need to create an SSH key. And I've already created one here, but I can create another. And this is a little convoluted if you are on Windows, but let's just click New SSH key and go through it. There are some instructions over here on the right that will walk you through it. Essentially, we need to generate a secret key that helps keep us and our droplet secure. So if you have a terminal window, you can use terminal, Windows PowerShell if you're on Windows. You could also use a program called PuTTY, the PuTTY key generator. It's free. You can download it. That will also allow you to generate SSH keys. But I'm just going to use terminal and PowerShell since I have that installed. So it says open a terminal and run the following command. So let's go ahead and do that. So just put in SSH-keygen. It's generating the key pair. Where do I want to save this? What do I want to call it? I'm just going to call it Perforce demo key. Sure. I think I already have one, so I'm going to call it demo key 2. Enter a passphrase. This is like your password. I'm just going to keep it short and sweet too. I'm just going to call it. I'm going to call it Perforce. Something that you want to remember, of course. And you're not going to see what you're typing, so the secret. You just got to remember it. Okay. So my secret passphrase that I typed in twice that you do not see because it's secret. I typed that in and it generated these files here. This file, that's PUB file, is important. That should have been created here in my case, C users, Raider, and then it's probably just dumped in there. I'm going to have to go and open that up to extract out some information. Move this to the side for a second and go back to DigitalOcean. So here it's asking for my SSH key content. So I need to go and find that. All right, go to that C, users, Raider, this. I'm going to right click that and open it up with Notepad. I also like to use the software Notepad++. It has a little bit more functionality than Notepad. Also, my computer's kind of freezing today, so even a little right click can slow things down. It's all right. Edit. You can use Notepad. I'm just using Notepad++ because that's what I like to use and have installed. Also, there is a big long string of gibberish here, it looks like. I'm just going to copy all of that and then go back to the DigitalOcean box, paste all that stuff in there. What do we want to call this? Perforce demo key 2. Really doesn't matter what you want to call it. You have multiple SSH keys you want to keep track of. That's fine. Add SSH key, and there they both are. Well, I have another one because I created one in the past. So now we've done that, we can scroll down, finalize details. What do you want to call this? I'm just going to call this Perforce demo, I guess. And click the create droplet button. And it will create this on the server. It's pretty fast, but to get full functionality, it might be a couple minutes. So we'll let that happen. So after that processes, you'll see this, and that means it's been created. It gives you the IP address and the name you called it, all the other pertinent information. I'm going to click into this, and if it's been created, in the last couple minutes, it might not be fully functional yet. We're going to have to go to this console over here, and if it hasn't been set up yet, you might just see waiting for console. Just give it a couple minutes and let it do its thing. Let it set up. Get ready to go. Let's check again if the console is ready. Click console, waiting for console. Sometimes then it will take you to another thing. Sometimes it looks like we're connected now, but sometimes you also get a message that says like, waiting for it to be set up, blah, blah, blah. It's just one line of text. You need to get to this menu where you can actually, enter in information down here. This is where we're in the admin console right now. This is where we're going to get the password. I'm going to close that down for right now though, and flip over to Unreal. So prior to doing this Perforce stuff, you have an Unreal Engine project. It doesn't have to be a brand new project. It could be a project that you've been working on. But the point is that you have a project. This is my amazing project here. This project, after we get Perforce and DigitalOcean set up, we are going to upload to a server so that we can have version control. All right, let's switch back to Perforce. Let's go ahead and click back into that droplet. Our droplet is just server space. Let's go to our console. All right, let me shrink this window down a little bit. Now this is where we're going to get the password that you and each of your team members will need to use to log on to your server. So it's telling us right here that our username for the server is Perforce. That's a default username. I think it's fine. You can change it, but let's not worry about that for right now. And then we need to type this cat /root perforce.password. We need to type that to get the secret password that everybody needs to log on to this server. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Copy and pasting, not working very well. You could just manually type it, would have been faster. Enter, and this string of numbers is the secret code, the secret password to get on to the server that I'm creating. Copy this and save that password. We're going to need that in a second. All right, next thing is, remember you went and installed Perforce and all that. Now we want to run that program, P4V. Remember, P4V is the program that we're launching. When you install Perforce, it can have a couple other programs like P4 admin, P4 client. We want just P4V, and it will look like this. So we need to enter in the server information, the user. We already know the user is called Perforce, that's default. And we need to set up the connection. This is not the right IP address right now. So I'm going to go back to DigitalOcean and find my IP address here. This is an internet IP address to the server. So we can go ahead and copy that. I need to save my secret key to something else real quick. Go ahead and copy this. So just click the copy button. Go back to Perforce. And we need the port number and we need the SSL. So, SSL : IP address that you copied from DigitalOcean : 1666. Username is Perforce. You don't have a workspace yet. Click OK. And you'll get a pop-up that says, are you sure you want to trust this fingerprint? We do. Connect. get another pop-up that's asking now for that string of numbers and letters that we got from the console. Enter that in there, click OK, and then it should connect. And you will see this window pop up. So this is the P4V client. This is where you will sync your files, you will push changes, you will write change lists, you will get the latest files, all those sorts of things. First thing we need to do is we need to set up a workspace. Right now, we don't have a workspace, so we're going to click this little drop down and go to New Workspace. And this workspace is going to end up being where your Unreal Engine project is, the one that's getting pushed to the server. So if you already have an Unreal Engine project, we're essentially going to copy those existing files into this new folder, new instance of the project, and then we are going to stop using the old one and we're going to keep using the new one. So a couple things here. What do you want to call the workspace? Usually I will call that something relevant to the user that's using this workspace. Workspace is user-based, I would say. So, in my case, this is my desktop computer, perhaps. I also have a laptop that I would want to use that I would also want to connect to this server. So I could have, Raider desktop, Raider laptop. You can have 20 free workspaces. You can have 5 free users, 20 free workspaces. In this case, we're all being the same user. There's not really that many reasons for you to have separate users unless you're trying to restrict certain securities for different users. But for an Unreal Engine project like this, I think just everybody sharing the same username is absolutely fine. But everybody's going to have a different workspace because they're installing it on their own computer. Then you need to choose the workspace root. Where do you want to save this to? This is up to you. I'm going to save this to my T drive. I have a Perforce folder. I'm going to create a new folder, call it demo. This is up to you, wherever you want to have it on your computer. This is where your Unreal Engine project that is synced to the server will exist. All right. So there we go. Put in my T drive in a Perforce folder and then in a demo folder. Click OK. It's gonna pop up a little wizard here that's asking you, do you want to add files to the server? We do. We're going to browse to that existing Unreal Engine project. It's not in the same location as the folder we just created. This is something that you did prior. So it's a little confusing because I'm calling things Perforce multiple times. But here is that Unreal Engine project that I already created. It's a blank world, pretty much. I'm just going to select this folder. It says there are 35 files because it's a brand new project. But before I go ahead and do that, there's one more thing that we want to do. Because there's certain files that we don't want uploaded to the server necessarily. And we need to create this file called a p4ignore file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Notepad, or Notepad++. If you have Notepad++, Notepad's fine. And there are some folders and file types that I'm excluding from uploading to the server. Why would you want to do this? Because every team member is going to have their own saved folder, their own intermediate folder, their own derived data cache folder. We don't need to sync those between each other because those are kind of particular just to our own computers. So we're going to tell Perforce to ignore those folders and not upload them to the server, so we don't have to download other people's screenshot folder and that sort of stuff. We hope perhaps you work on a project you do want to share the saved folder. That's up to you. But this is just kind of a default P4 ignore. This will be saved in the Discord channel. If you don't want to copy or write it manually from here, you can also look these up on Google. You'll find pretty much the same thing. So copy that into Notepad++, and then go ahead and save it. As a .p4ignore file. Where do you want to save this? Save it in the root of your project. I already have one because I already created it for this project, but you save it there. So we can go back to the Perforce Add Files wizard here. There are the files that are going to be added. But it's actually going to skip some of these because they're in our P4ignore file. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. It's going to create a stream depot. I'll keep these names the default. Don't need to complicate things right now. You can have multiple streams and depots and all that, but for just one project, one depot, one storage space, that's fine. Click Next. Click Start. It's copying the files to the server. Click Finish. So now if I go and look at P4V, I have two tabs up top here. The workspace, which is my local copy of the project, and then the depot tab, which is the server-based copy of the project. So in our case, we will be uploading our work from workspace to the depot, and then we will be downloading changes from the depot to the workspace if we're working with other people. We click on the depot tab, and we go to Streams Depot. You see mainline. This is the server version of the project. There isn't really much in here right now because it's a brand new project, Unreal project. I just made a new map. That's it. Right now, these projects are synced. Also notice that the derived data cache, the intermediate, the saved folder, those are not in the depot because we told the P4ignore file to ignore those folders. I did mess up real quick. We created that P4ignore file, but we never actually registered it with Perforce. So we need to go ahead and do that. And before we would sync the files and add the files to the server, right after you create that P4ignore file in Notepad, you want to go ahead and do this in your terminal window. So the first thing we need to do is we need to browse to wherever it is that you saved that. I think I saved it in my T drive, right? Yeah, CD T. Was it in Perforce demo? I think that's where I put it. So CD and then the directory, wherever it is, the root of your project. Yeah. So that's the root of my project. T drive, Perforce folder, demo folder, and then the P4ignore file lives inside of there. But that's where I told it to live. Just double check in Explorer real quick. Oh, no, actually it is in another folder. Perforce, T, Perforce demo, Perforce demo. That's confusing. All right. So once you're in the actual root, then you can use this command p4 set p4 ignore equals dot p4 ignore p4 set. Oops, that is a $sign, not the number 4. P4 set p4 ignore equals period p4 ignore. Hit enter, and it will seem like nothing happens, but it does. You can then go back to P4V in the wizard, add those files, transfer those files, do what we should have did right after we created the P4 ignore. If you notice that those folders are getting copied to the depot, it's because you didn't go back to terminal and set the P4 ignore file. All right, at this point, we can jump back to Unreal Engine. Now, it's very important to remember that we are now using the server version of our Unreal Engine project, not the initial one that we had. Okay, this is the initial one that I had, so I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Then I'm going to find the version that I copied to that new server that we are doing version control with. So that was in the Perforce folder, demo, Perforce demo. This is the server version. I'm going to go ahead and double click the U project file to open up that project. All right, now I have that version of the project. So there's a little bit of setup that we need to do in Unreal itself now. If you go to Tools, there's a couple different places to do this, but Tools, connect to Revision Control. You're going to get a little box here that this is where you set up Perforce with Unreal. So provider is going to be Perforce. And then we're going to need to enter some information. We're going to need to enter that server information, the IP address, the username again. So that information is the same stuff that we got from DigitalOcean, the IP address. I'm just going to enter that in there. Username is Perforce. Make sure that you do SSL :IP port number. Port number is 1666. Username is Perforce by default. Workspace, it's because I already had one in here. It's entered in there. But you need to click on the little drop down for available workspaces. And assuming that you entered the server IP address and the username correctly, this will automatically go out and find this. And that's what my workspace is called. That's what I called it when we set it up. So I'm going to select that and accept settings. You only need to do that once unless you manually disconnected this or something. There's also a little button down here on the bottom right of Unreal that allows you to do some things that are related to revision control, see history, change those settings that we just set up, etc. All right, so now we have Unreal actually connected to Perforce and the server. So let's start doing some things. I'm going to just do some very basic addition of a cube here. I'm going to go Shapes, Cube, add this in here. And I don't know, maybe right click in the content browser. Maybe I'll create a new material. Create a material called mcolor. It really doesn't matter what you're doing here. I'm just creating new files. If you right click, just going to create a vector parameter so I can change the cube from red to green, back and forth. Create two material instances. This one mi red. Duplicate it. Call this mi green. Double click into them too, and then actually assign them their color values. What is this one? The green one. Set down, go back to the red one. That red. This is just a demo, so you don't have to create these materials. Now notice down here that we have some symbols attached to things. We know the asterisk means you got to save it, but the pluses mean that this file is new. It doesn't exist on the server. So it needs to be added to the server. I'm going to go ahead and save. Save selected. When I save, it also notices that there's been some changes to this map. What happened with this map? How did it change? I added the cube into the world. So Unreal detects that, matches it against the server file. It knows that it is a new addition. So it's asking me, do you want to check out this asset? Do you want to check it out from the server so that you can make changes to it so nobody else can make changes to it while you're working on it? Yes, we do. So let's check it out. So the green check mark means that we have checked out. Nobody else can use it right now. And if you're working collaboratively, you can hover over files to see who has checked it out. In this case, this is less useful because we're all using the default username. So you have to do a little bit more work to track down who actually has a file checked out. But that's useful to know if it has a green check on it, somebody's working on it, so you won't be able to make changes to it. Or you can yell at somebody to check the file back in if they're finished. These files have not been added to the server. So let's go ahead and do that. We can select them, right click, revision control, check in. And it's going to ask you to make a change list description. Let's call this created materials. And submit. You notice that I didn't select the level. That allowed me to create a separate change list. Sometimes you might want to just dump all your changes into one change list, but sometimes you might want to parse them out separately to release certain assets that you have checked out, not everything all at once. I do want to eventually check this level in though, because I did make changes to it. I put a cube into it, and then I'm also going to change the color of it in a second here. So notice after I check those back in, that the pluses disappeared because they are now uploaded to the server, synced with version control. If I get out of Unreal here and I go back to P4V, some useful tabs here to look at. There is the submitted tab. If you don't have that, you can always go up to view and check it to add it to the list. So check that out. There's 3 different submissions here. A couple got created when we initially created the server, and then there's this one on top, number 3, for what I just did. Has the description of what I typed in Unreal, created materials. You should always be very diligent with your change list descriptions so that not only yourself, but the rest of your team knows what the heck got changed. It can be very useful when trying to track down changes if problems pop up. So this change got pushed to the server. That's great. Now, if you were another user, you would want to go and get those changes, right? So how do you get changes from the server? I like to just usually click on the content folder and then go to get latest, and that will pull down any changes that have been made by you. You're already going to have your changes, but they'll pull down any other changes from any other users and plug them into your project. All right, cool. We made changes. Let's jump back to Unreal. Let's make this cube red. Great. Click Save. Now I need to right-click, check back in this map that I made changes to when I made the cube red. Check in. It's not a very descriptive description, but I think it satisfies it. Submit. Go back to P4V. Notice it didn't initially pop up here. Sometimes you have to click refresh in the top left, and now it's there, change cube red. So now if my teammates pulled this down, they would now have the red cube. That's great. Now, what if you wanted to undo a change? What if somebody really screwed something up? Well, typically, if you didn't have revision control, you would kind of be stuck unless you had backups of the project or you saved multiple levels with version incrementing. It's kind of messy, right? That's kind of the beauty of version control, is that you can always undo these changes. I've had projects before where I made some changes and all of a sudden the project stopped loading and I wasn't using version control, and it was really screwed because I didn't have a backup either. I've lost projects that way before. So it's always important to be backed up either with some sort of convoluted backup hard drive process or using version control. So let's undo this red cube change. So the cube is red in Unreal, but if I undo this change, if I undo the submission, you can always click on the drop down to see the changes, saying one change has been made to L_Perforce demo map. You can have any number of changes in here. This is just one. If I look at number 3, I should see the 3 material changes. Here's the 3 files that got changed and uploaded to the server. So I want to change that. I want to undo this change. So I'm going to right click and go to undo changes in this change list. It's going to ask me, are you sure? Do you want to save this to a change list? Yes, I do. We're always saving our changes to the change list because we got to explain what it is that we just did. So notice that number 5 change didn't get created. I need to go to pending. A pending change got created. So in that pending change, it has the map that I made the change to, the undo, and now I need to go ahead and submit it. So I can double click on it, I can click submit, and it's going to ask for a change list description. In this case, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. It's undoing change list 4, but if you want to type something more, you could say undo red material cube change. It's good to be descriptive. And then click submit. Now that has disappeared from the pending change list and it's popped over into the submitted ones. Number 5 now. If I jump back to Unreal, I still have a red cube. Let's deal with that. It's going to, Unreal hasn't synced yet. Now, typically you will get like an exclamation mark that pops up on the file when it is different, and sometimes you can, go to right click on the file, revision control, do a refresh, and then it will pop up. But in this case, it still hasn't popped up. You can also try to manually refresh in P4V in the top left. Definitely, if you shut down Unreal and then restarted it, those changes would be populated, assuming that you sync them with the server. I'm just by myself right now, but if I had a teammate, I would have to pull down their changes with the Get Latest button. Those changes don't automatically pop up on your computer. You have to click Get Latest. Go to the content folder, click Get Latest. That will pull down all the changes that your teammates have made. So if I jump back to Unreal, see the change didn't get populated, and we don't have an exclamation mark here telling us that this file is out of sync. That can be kind of annoying. I made a change in this case, and I know I did, so I should just be able to double click on this map again, and that change should happen. It did. I forgot, not only did I change the color, but it brought me back to where I didn't even create the cube. So I should have been more descriptive in my change list. It wasn't just a material change. It was taking us back to before I even had created the cube, which is fine in this case. That's perfectly fine. So if I wanted to go back to create another cube, or let's do a sphere this time. I make this green sphere. Oops. Make the sphere green. Go ahead and save my map. I have to check it out to save it. Notice again it has a green check mark on it, meaning that it's checked out. I need to submit it. Revision control, check in. Suppose green sphere. Check in. If I go back to P4V, if I click refresh, then I see that green sphere change. I could go and change the sphere to red. Again, I need to save the map. I save the map. It's going to ask me to check out the map again. Check out. It says it's checked out. Check it back in. Check in. You can also check in over here from the revision control in the bottom right. It says review change list, view changes. These are all in the bottom right. Let's just view our changes. This is more useful if you have, a ton of changes that you made. You don't want to go and have to select all of them in the content browser. So here again, I just changed the map, so there's only one file. But this is where I can submit changes as well. Right click, submit change list. What do I want to call this? What did we change the, I don't even remember. I changed the sphere to red from green. Yeah. So right click, submit change list. I changed it from green to red or red to green. I think it's red now. Yeah. Sphere is red. Submit. All right, close that down. Go back to the P4V, refresh. You don't have to go back to P4V. I'm just showing you that these changes are getting created. Sphere is red. If I wanted to undo the sphere turning red, I can right click, undo changes, save this to a pending change list, or just submit it straight up. Computer's frozen here. 1 second. There we go. Submit. It's going to ask us, what do you want to call the change list? Sphere revert from red. Submit. So if I go back to Unreal, and again, these changes aren't popping up here. This is changes. Double click on the map again, it should be going back to green. Yep, there it is, because that's the most recent version. So it's just a little tour of Perforce and Unreal.